have to see what. Maybe we'll do a show on what Tupac could have developed. It what elder Tupac may have looked like if he would have survived.
Right. He would have actually probably been, I would, in my vision, say a very wise person going through. Age puts something on you, changes your thinking. And if he
Hmm.
had lasted, I think Pac would have probably ended up in politics or um, at least the in a civil rights type of aspect of things more than he would have in the gangster side. That would have burned out, I think, for Pac pretty quickly. Um,
Right.
Considering age changes your thinking, right? Most OGs go back to the hood and try to change the youth's mind to get them out of that thinking instead of encourage it. But you never know because he does have that sun in Gemini, so it's hard to tell with Pac, right? But um, interesting enough, he's got that. She's got Saturn in his ascendant within what 5 degrees, I think, right?
Hmm.
Right. It's within 5 degrees of his ascendant, so he's gonna take her pretty serious, right? No, within 1 degree of his ascendant. Isn't that what is that? 19 degrees. It's 13 degrees. His ascendant is right at what is that? 12 degrees. Yeah, no, 14. So 13, 14. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So the relationship, from his perspective, bringing her into his particular apparatus is gonna be serious. It's gonna be harsh. He's gonna have to take a lot of pressure, and he's taking. There's a lot of talk about Will right now being two sides, right? We talked about it earlier. A lot of talk about Will being a simp, right? Right. And Will, not a pimp, but a simp, right? Right. And Will being uh, uh, the knight in shining armor, right?
Yeah, it ain't a
Being
lot of people that.
chivalrous to a degree. And, it could be a little of both, I mean, to tell you the truth, right? It's probably a little bit of both, right? Yep. Saturn is his Badakhstana, right? You're right. Definitely obstructions there. I saw that earlier. Good looking, good looking. Um, um, and they both have the same Badakhstana houses, right? Both of them, right? They both are gonna have those same Badakhstana houses. Jade is gonna have it in the ninth, and so as Will. But you know, it's interesting that her Saturn being over his ascendant, Saturn can also humiliate you. It can definitely make you feel, you know, it can tighten you to where you thought you were something, and what other person to bring you to your reality check than your mate, right?
Right.
I mean, seriously, um, it's not easy to be with a very fiery, hot woman, right? When she's got all this heat and energy, and
Yeah.
considering, looking at it from the perspective of relationships, when you look at their charts, his ascendant lord is in his sixth house. That really kind of honed in on the first wife a lot. That really kind of sparked the divorce within the first wife. But guess what, folks? Guess what? Right? It's not too far reach for the second wife either. Because
No.
when we look at this, you know, there's a way to find each person in your life, even including the second, third, and fourth, and even up to the fifth, and I mean sometimes sixth, right? Depending on this nowadays, that's not uncommon. But especially in Hollywood, right?
Right.
That kind of is the name of the game. Um, unless you got those mantras, right? Yeah, he's gonna take the mantras and some mental discipline, some mental work and discipline, and when you got money like that, what I mean. You know, Sometimes those of us that don't have all that money are a lot safer spiritually speaking because we see things from a different purview. When you have money,
You don't got the tools to destroy yourself.
exactly, right?
Not completely.
Right. So you harness those forces that be for your benefit, whereas those have access to resources that kind of undermine that process. But it doesn't mean that those that have wealth don't access it as well. Some do. but it's
Right.
very far and few in between. But when you look at the second Lord, that's the second wife, people. The second spouse, right? I don't want to be biased. It's the second spouse. And look where it is. Mercury rules Gemini. It's in the house of divorce. I gotta say it like it is, right? It's in the house of divorce. So I mean, he's struggling to keep this thing together. He's in a Venus Dasha period, which represents himself. And the sixth house, Tauruses many times can be their own what?
Worst enemy.
Worst enemy, right? They can undo the Scorpio. And guess what? Guess who else can be their own worst enemy?
Scorpio.
Scorpio can be their own worst enemy, right? Why do you say that? Because the ascendant Lord, which represents the individual, the personality, the native, and the sixth house or the sixth Lord are ruled, they're the same Lord. So the sixth house is enemies, right? And the ascendant is you. So you can be your own enemy, right? You can be your own enemy. And so, considering has she been her own enemy? Well, if anything that's activated in the sixth house from the ascendant, and guess what, folks? Mars is in the third house. Mars activates four houses from itself by aspect, is aspecting the sixth house of enemies. So, by way of her expression and communication, she can be her own what? Worst enemy. With Rahu added to added energy, right? So she's already put her stuff out there. And normally, Scorpios are very private, but for her, it's the antithesis because the moon and Mercury are in the 10th house of on the public stage. So she feels comfortable being in the public eye. She has no problem doing that.
But she was relatively private, up
Prior
until
to,
maybe
right,
like, maybe about past decade she's been real
right,
vocal.
prior to, but guess
Right.
what? Rahu said, not anymore.
Right.
Not anymore. You're not. You got this overwhelming need to tell your
Tell you.
business, right? An insatiable desire to tell it all, right?
That's
Well,
a heck of a desire, right?
hey,
Gee whiz.
hey,
Will's over there like, man,
oh my God, man. What
shut
did I
up,
get
woman.
myself? What am- what did I get myself into? No wonder Tupac dated her, right? She got a mouth on her,
Yeah.
right? Just what it is, right? So, Will's chart definitely he's got some things where he's a very stalwart, nice guy, But you know what they say about nice guys these days, right? They happen to finish last, right?
Yeah.
And his ascendant lord is in the sign of Libra, it's in Chitra, right? Um, and he and his second wife are fairly close. His ascendant lord is within less than a degree from the second lord, which is the second wife. So he's very close to her. He does love her. He's in love. I mean, the guy's in love. I hate to say it that way, but I'm not gonna call him a sucker. I'm not gonna call you that. I'm just saying, bro, right? You should have put a stop to that red table talk a long time ago, man. Right? Not in my house. You're not gonna put our business on Front Street like that. No way. And then to add insult to injury, right? You continue. Okay, you let it. Then I'm not for what I'm not gonna go there. That'll be you and your thing. And then on top of that, it's not gonna continue. And then to add the final cherry on top, no, that we're gonna call it a blue table talk, and you're gonna talk about things other than our business, right? Because it has
Right.
nothing to do with no, that's how you ruin a marriage, right? Doesn't help because you feel like you're, I guess, purging yourself and what do you call it? Putting yourself into this type of, I guess, I don't know what kind of light you want to say, but it's not saintly. But nonetheless, right? And there's even a lot of talk. I mean, there's so many rumors. It's just ridiculous. But isn't it interesting that that rumor thing would be pertinent to Rahu conjunct the ascendant Lord, right? And they talking about she was pregnant by somebody else. That was something I saw on the news the other, on YouTube the other day. I'm like, wow, like just all the talk, you know. But nonetheless, Will's a pretty decent guy in the sense of how he, you know, presents himself in relationships, right? Just to take for example, the ascendant Lord is in the sign of Libra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Libras are fairly balanced and equitable in how they deal with things. And for Tauruses, right, as an ascendant, it's very much a struggle. It's, because Tauruses are fixed by nature. They're very stalwart. They're very much 4 feet flat. And Libra is the scales. So that's why it's an enemy house, because the going back and forth presents stress to the Taurus, right? And that Mercury is the stress is coming from, guess what? Wife number two,
Right.
right? But to add that in, right? Their sun, they have a sun conjunct each other. Their suns are the same. They have the same sun sign, so there's a strong soul connection there. Strong soul connection. But that sun is combust his ascendant Lord, so she's gonna beat up on him pretty good. Little tiny little Jada, right? And 6'2" Will, 230 pounds, and get whooped on, right? Mentally, right, by her. Because K2, when it conjuncts the ascendant Lord, right? Right? When K2, right, in one person's chart conjuncts the other person's ascendant Lord, that's a whooping. That person doesn't feel like they have any control. That's how he feels. I have no control over this woman, this relationship. I feel out of pocket, out of sorts. Why am I going through this? The question, the big question mark, why?
Right.
Well, you owe, right? And his ascendant Lord is debilitated in that 11th house, right? Of social interactions. Isn't that interesting? Right? In social interactions is what debilitates. Social interactions is just the same thing as the table talk. It's the same process. A table has a group sitting around it.
Right.
So you got to understand this is how he feels. So he's kind of out of sorts. You know, things happen with her. Things happen with her. He's sitting there with her. Things happen. Go figure, right? I'm just showing you how these things, and he's in a what dasha? Venus
Venus.
dasha. So
Right.
it's all about him and his reputation, his presentation, how he's viewed upon, his name.
He has to fight for it. He's fight for his
Yeah, he
reputation.
gotta he gotta make sure it's not just put in the mud, right?
Right.
Because it's combust and debilitated based on her chart. So he's living life. See, relationships are about you living life through the other person and them living life through you. That's how relationships work. That's why the chart combines in the way it does. So when you see that person's ascendant Lord debilitated in the other person's chart, you're living their life as if through them, as if it's debilitated or weakened. They weaken you straight up, straight up, right? You got to understand that his seventh Lord, which is his second child, which is the oldest child, has now come out as being homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
It's Rahu conjunct Rahu in her chart. Straight up. That's how it works. That's how it works. So the interlacing of karma produces these fallouts. That's why they say look deep before you leap. Look at his Navamsha. The D9 chart is a chart that indicates how you deal with the supreme being, and in direct or in indirectly, deal with relationships because relationships is the fastest way to supreme being other than being what's called a renunciate. Marriage is a ceremonious process. It's an initiation. That's why they have a what? Ceremony, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make a vow, just like you make a vow to the supreme being, a vow of abstinence, a vow of silence, a vow of poverty. You make a vow to the person that you're with.
Right.
So it's an initiation. People don't see it that way. That's what it is. And look, in his seventh house, right? In the D9, he's got, right? Venus, Rahu, and Mercury. Are you serious? That's conjunct directly back to her what? Ascendant.
Send it. Yeah.
This is the interlacing of two people's karmas that come to play. And they're bound to live this out. When they saw each other, it was like boom, it ignition, ignite. It's on. So you can see these things, right? As they play out. It's beautiful, right? This astrology is no joke, but he's in that Venus Dasha, and Venus is combust in her chart. So when you see Venus Sun, he's running a Venus Sun. It's not combust in his chart, but it's combust in his wife's chart. So if you're married, you take on some of those energies. So that Venus and Venus and Sun Dasha is going to combust. It's interesting how it works. What is combustion? What does it do? It makes you super sensitive, makes your skin thin, makes you, most of us don't get sunburn, but the people that do, right? Sunburn is when you touch someone that has sunburn, they about ready to knock you out because it's so sensitive. So any
Right.
planets that's combust, it's sensitive around that area, and Venus is relationships. So their relationship is very sensitive to him. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just interesting how it's playing out. But nonetheless, right, just to give you some context and pretext to what this whole event is about, how it pops out. Now, he and I have been back and forth, right? And, it's hard to say what really happened, people, right?
Right.
I have my side that's part of me, and I'm just going to keep it above, just keep it 1,000 with you. Part of me says it's staged, part of me says it's not. Let me tell you why I say it's not staged first. The reaction that Will Smith gave when he sat down. That's the part of me that says something was triggered.
Well, the other thing too, and I'm sure you were gonna go there, is just like right now what's happening. Their ascendant lords are in a planetary war with each other.
Not even well, they were in a
They were.
planetary war.
Right.
They're no longer in a planetary war, but they were for some time. And when they were in that planetary war,
Mm-hmm.
they definitely had some spillover, right, into the limelight where they have this kind of love hate relationship.
Right. Like they could have been beefing recently.
They were beefing. Oh,
They're
they were.
beefing.
Yeah. No, don't they don't they were beefing. You can guarantee that.
Right.
But Venus and Mars with regards to relationships is love hate. It's
Yeah.
passion and it's anger. It's
Right.
love and it's lust, right? And so, it's this kind of energetic tug of war that they feel with one another. Where, Saturn in her seventh house, I can't leave this man. You got to understand how she feels. She is his seventh house. So there's an interlock there. There's an interlock,
Right.
right? In his D9, I don't want to call it a relationship chart. It is not your relationship chart. It is actually your spiritual chart or your start chart that deals with the external side of your spirituality, not the internal, but the external side of your spirituality, which ties into the external side of how you connect with the supreme being, which is either the supreme being itself or your mate. It's one of the two, right? Because people that don't get married, they still have a D9, right? and they deal with, or people that live in ashrams, or people that are nuns, priests, those kind. They still have a D9. That D9 then shows their ninth house. The D9 is really your ninth house chart. It's not your seventh house chart. But I teach those things to my students because I teach them how to understand the parameters within the context of the D9. And that is a very deep topic because it's not just easily read based on your spouse. It's not really that. But
Right.
if you're going to be married and take a vow and take it seriously, then it becomes the chart that emulates how you deal with the person that, your wife or your husband knows more about you than your mama, than your children, than your homies, than your brother, right? For the most part, your wife knows everything, or your husband knows everything next to the spring being. He is actually a great actor. That's an excellent point too. And that Venus ruled ascendant does give him acting skills, right? They're both pretty
Right.
good actors, right? Sun in the fifth house also gives him the limelight when it comes to doing his role. So by far, he does do well, right? Fifth house is also acting people, right? It's that ability to have a presence on screen. If the man does that, right?
He
Bar
has
none, right?
Neptune over there too.
I got you. See, I mean, considering the outer planets, when you throw those in, you can loop those in a generational sense. But
Oh no, I'm tripping. That's Uranus. My bad. I'm right. No, take that back.
yes, yeah, that's your Uranus.
Yeah.
Um, but Neptune is in his eighth house. I mean seventh house. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, right, he does have that presence on screen. No, no, no lie. The thing is that and the reason, let me tell you what his real skill of why he's an actor that does so well. His moon is conjunct Venus, right? That's the real skill, right? His ascendant Lord is conjunct his mind. Mind and body have a strong connection, so he can bring off. When he played Ali, he played the hell out of Ali. Our guy will give him salute to that role, right? Because
Right.
Ali was a dope for it, right? I mean, he played that, the mannerisms. It was almost like a Jamie Foxx type of deal, right? With Ray, I put them parallel. Of course, Ray was a little bit better because Ray, he had to play that piano, right? And the way he
I,
pulled, I mean,
I think
Ray was
Jamie,
cold, right?
To me, Jamie Foxx is probably. I mean, it's gonna sound crazy, but I think he's probably one of the best actors in the
I do
game.
too.
Period.
I do
Yeah.
too. I do too. Yeah. I'm talking about modern wise. Yeah, he carries his role, right? Very
I
good.
put it all time. I
Ooh, ooh,
I'll put him over Denzel. I'll put him over
Oh
Denzel.
yeah, but I'm talking about Lawrence Fishburne. That's my pot. That's my dude, man.
Yeah,
Lawrence
Lawrence
Fishburne
Fishburne
is
is
cold,
cold. Yeah,
man.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Because
He's
he got
cold,
his
man.
range is crazy.
His range is cold, right? He could play
Go
Othello.
from
He could. I mean,
what's
he's
his name
dope.
from King of New York.
King.
Uh,
Did
go,
you believe he
go,
was King of New York? Then
well,
you
I mean,
believed
just
it.
it
Yeah.
his role in there to the Matrix,
Man.
or into
Lawrence
Furious.
Fishburne to
What you
me,
call it?
Lawrence Fishburne to me is the goal line of actors, right? He's like, if you are with, and I mean, he's played in Aliens. I mean, you know, he just, the way he carries himself as an actor, to me, right, is by far the best. Considering Morgan Freeman, pretty good too, right? But Morgan Freeman plays
The
the
same guy.
the same guy in different roles, right? But Lawrence Fishburne though, that man is a master, right? But Jamie Foxx though, when it comes to imitation of life, imitation of to imitate, man, the dude, like when he does Mike Tyson, he has the ability to carry off and be a ventriloquist when it comes to other people's identities.
It's
So
possession.
yeah, possession, exactly. So Jamie Foxx is, and I mean, when it comes to Ray and Ali, I'm saying they were close. But of course, because he's actually a musician as well. But Ali
Right.
was a damn good role.
Yeah.
It was a good role, and I mean, it was believable. You could feel it. It was, when I watch Ali to this day, I still get the same energy as when I watched it the first time. So it was a very good role. He's done, After Earth. What's the other one? The alien, the zombies. He's a good actor.
Right.
Good actor. But
King Richard, the
King
one
Richard,
that's
right?
even
Just
the one that he
right.
got the Oscar for.
Yeah, yeah. He has a emotional content with his acting. That's what I mean, right?
Right.
Strong emotional content, but that's that ascended Lord conjunct the moon, right?
Hmm.
Third Lord, right? Can carry out and carry off, excuse me, those other identities very, very well. So he doesn't have like a a a a a, a, a place where you don't believe it. Oh yeah, I could see that. I could see him being that person. So definitely salute to you, Will, and your skill set. But when it comes to the private life, bro, right, man, right, you got a winner. So this whole thing about this kind of incident, right? I'm split, and I'm just gonna say I'm split. Reason why I'm split is because of this. The way it happened. Now I don't know about y'all, right? But if I slap somebody, right? And I won't put myself in the slappy position, right? If I slap somebody,